Good evening. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in silence, not just external silence, but a stillness within yourself? If it's been a while, you're not alone. We live in a world that demands constant engagement, relentless connection, and an unyielding need to show up for everyone, all the time. But what if I told you that your greatest act of courage isn't in showing up for others, but in showing up for yourself? And sometimes to truly do that, you have to ghost everyone. Healthy boundaries are not walls, they're the gates that allow you to protect your energy and focus. Far too often, boundaries are misunderstood as barriers, rigid structures that isolate us from the world or keep others at a distance. But true boundaries are the opposite. They are dynamic, intentional spaces that honor our needs and create healthier, more meaningful connections with others. Boundaries are not acts of separation, but invitations to authenticity. At their core, boundaries define where you end and another person begins. They are an essential aspect of self-respect, allowing you to communicate what is acceptable and what is not in your relationships. When you honor your boundaries, you tell the world that your energy, time, and well-being are valuable. It's not about shutting people out, it's about creating a framework where mutual respect can flourish. Think of boundaries as a way of saying, this is how we can stay connected while I remain true to myself. The lack of boundaries often manifests in feelings of resentment, burnout, or frustration. When you consistently overextend yourself or allow others to disregard your limits, you deplete the very resources that make you capable of showing up as your best self. By contrast, establishing boundaries isn't an act of selfishness, it's a profound expression of self-care. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and boundaries ensure that your cup is full enough to share when it matters most. Creating boundaries requires courage. It means getting comfortable with discomfort, both your own and others. People who are used to unlimited access to your time or energy may resist or even push back when you begin to set limits. But this resistance is not a reason to abandon your boundaries. Rather, it's a signal that they are necessary. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They're about defining how you engage with the world. When you set them, you empower yourself to take responsibility for your emotional health and interactions. Enforcing boundaries also involves consistency. Saying no when it feels necessary, stepping back when your peace is at stake, or walking away from dynamics that no longer serve you are acts of self-advocacy. Over time, boundaries create a ripple effect, improving your relationships by fostering mutual understanding and respect. Ultimately, boundaries are about balance. They allow you to give and receive authentically without losing yourself in the process. They are not walls to keep others out, but gates that open selectively, ensuring that your energy and focus are preserved for what truly matters. When you establish boundaries with intention, you protect your ability to thrive, not just for yourself, but for the relationships and endeavors that enrich your life. When the world is loud, stepping away lets you hear the whispers of your soul. In a time where distractions are constant and noise is inescapable, finding clarity can feel like chasing a mirage. Notifications ping endlessly, demands on our attention grow louder, and the pace of life often leaves little room for introspection. Yet, it is in the moments of stillness, when we intentionally step back, that we reconnect with the essence of who we are and what we truly want. The noise of the world isn't just external. It resides in our minds, where the chatter of self-doubt, comparison, and unfulfilled expectations can drown out our inner voice. We become so accustomed to the hum of obligations and opinions that we forget to question whether the paths we walk align with our own desires. Clarity doesn't emerge in the midst of chaos, it arrives in the quiet spaces where we can finally hear ourselves think. Stepping away is an act of courage in a society that equates busyness with worth. It requires acknowledging that productivity is not the measure of a meaningful life, and that rest is not a luxury but a necessity. Creating space for stillness allows us to sift through the noise, distinguishing what is truly ours from what has been imposed upon us. It's in these pauses that we find the clarity to discern between what nurtures us and what drains us. This process isn't about seeking absolute silence or isolation. It's about finding intentional solitude moments where we retreat not to escape, but to reflect. In stepping away, we invite an awareness that cannot surface amid constant stimulation. We start to notice the subtle signals of our intuition, the quiet truths we've been too busy to hear. These whispers often hold the answers we've been searching for, insights about our purpose, clarity, and our next steps, and reminders of what truly matters. Clarity amid noise also means letting go of the need to respond to every demand and be available to everyone at all times. It's an act of self-trust, a belief that the world will keep turning even if we pause. And in that pause, we recharge and realign, emerging stronger, more grounded, and more certain of the path we are meant to walk. The whispers of your soul have always been there, waiting patiently beneath the noise. When you choose to step away, you create the conditions for those whispers to become a guiding voice, one that leads you toward a life of greater intention and fulfillment. Ghosting isn't about rejection, it's about choosing peace over chaos. In a world that constantly pulls us in multiple directions, detachment becomes an act of self-care, a way to preserve our mental, emotional, and even physical well-being. It's not about abandoning responsibility or cutting ties impulsively. It's about recognizing when something no longer serves your growth, your peace, or your purpose, and having the courage to step away. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It doesn't mean you don't care about others or the relationships you've built. On the contrary, it often stems from a deep awareness of your own needs and limits. When we hold on to relationships, situations, or habits that cause stress or emotional turmoil, we deplete ourselves. Choosing to detach is not an act of rejection, but of self-preservation, a declaration that your well-being matters enough to take precedence. Sometimes the chaos we face isn't external, but internal. We find ourselves entangled in overthinking, trying to meet unspoken expectations, or holding on to connections out of guilt or obligation. Detachment is a way of breaking free from these cycles. It allows you to release the need for validation from others, to stop seeking approval that might never come, and to step back into your own power. By letting go, you create space for clarity, healing, and new opportunities that align with your values and aspirations. Ghosting, as a form of detachment, is often misunderstood as avoidance or irresponsibility. But in its truest form, it's an intentional choice to protect your peace when other means have failed. It's recognizing that explaining yourself repeatedly or trying to salvage something toxic can be more draining than stepping away. This is not about running from problems, it's about prioritizing solutions that begin with your own peace of mind. The beauty of detachment is that it's freeing. It gives you permission to disengage from what you cannot control and focus on what you can yourself. It's not an end, it's a beginning, a reset that allows you to come back to your core. When you let go of the chaos, you open the door to peace, creativity, and authentic connection. You begin to attract people and experiences that resonate with who you truly are, not the version of yourself molded by others' expectations. Ultimately, detachment is an act of love, not just for yourself, but for everyone involved. By stepping away, you honor your own boundaries and give others the space to do the same. It's a reminder that sometimes choosing peace over chaos isn't just self-care, it's the most courageous thing you can do. Not everyone in your life is aligned with your purpose. Step back to recalibrate. This truth, though sometimes difficult to accept, is one of the most empowering realizations you can have. Life is a journey of growth, and as you evolve, so too must the energy and connections that surround you. When the people or situations in your life clash with your purpose, they create discord, making it harder for you to stay focused and move forward. Recognizing this misalignment and stepping back isn't an act of rejection, but one of self-preservation and growth. Alignment begins with self-awareness. To know whether someone or something aligns with your purpose, you first need to understand your own path. This requires clarity about your goals, values, and the energy you wish to bring into the world. Once you have that foundation, it becomes easier to discern whether the energy others bring supports or disrupts your journey. Relationships, whether personal or professional, carry energy. Some energize and uplift you, making you feel seen, supported, and capable. Others drain you, leaving you feeling small, inadequate, or confused. It's not about labeling people as good or bad, it's about recognizing whether their presence contributes to or detracts from your growth. When you sense repeated tension, conflict, or exhaustion in a connection, it's often a sign of misalignment. Stepping back to recalibrate doesn't mean burning bridges or cutting ties recklessly. It's about creating space to reflect, evaluate, and realign your energy. This might involve reducing interactions, setting boundaries, or in some cases, letting go entirely. It's an opportunity to recenter yourself and focus on what truly matters. The act of recalibration allows you to approach your life with intentionality, ensuring that the energy you invest is directed toward what resonates with your purpose. The beauty of alignment is that it works both ways. When you let go of relationships or situations that no longer fit, you create space for new opportunities and connections that do. It's like tuning an instrument. Once you align yourself with your purpose, you attract people and experiences that harmonize with your values and goals. These relationships don't just coexist, they amplify your energy, helping you reach new heights. Stepping back isn't always easy, especially when it involves people you care about. But staying in misaligned spaces out of fear or obligation can stunt your growth and theirs. Trust that recalibration is an act of love for yourself and for those around you. When you honor your energy and purpose, you not only elevate your own life, but inspire others to do the same. Aligning your energy is not just a choice, it's a commitment to living authentically and fully. Growth demands space. Sometimes that space comes from leaving people behind. As difficult as it may be, letting go of certain relationships is often a necessary step in your journey toward personal evolution. It doesn't mean you don't value the memories, lessons, or connections shared with those individuals. It means recognizing that the chapter you're stepping into requires a different energy, one that some people may no longer be able to provide. Growth is inherently uncomfortable. It challenges the status quo, disrupts familiar patterns, and often forces you to confront the aspects of your life that are no longer in alignment. Holding on to relationships out of nostalgia, guilt, or fear of change can stifle your progress. When you cling to people who aren't growing at the same pace or in the same direction, you risk being pulled back into old versions of yourself that you've outgrown. Letting go doesn't always mean severing ties completely. Sometimes it means redefining the role someone plays in your life. It's about creating space physically, emotionally, or mentally to focus on your growth. This space allows you to recalibrate your energy, pursue new opportunities, and build connections that align with the person you're becoming. In this process, you'll find that the relationships meant to endure will adapt and evolve alongside you. It's important to understand that leaving people behind isn't an act of judgment or superiority. Growth isn't a race, and everyone's journey unfolds at its own pace. Letting go is an acknowledgement that your paths may be diverging, and that's okay. It's a natural part of life's rhythm. Relationships ebb and flow, and not all are meant to last forever. This process requires courage and compassion. It's not easy to distance yourself from people you care about, especially when they've been significant in your life. But growth often involves hard choices, and one of the hardest is choosing yourself. By letting go, you honor the growth that both you and the other person deserve. Clinging to relationships that no longer serve either of you does a disservice to both parties, trapping you in dynamics that prevent forward movement. The space created by letting go is fertile ground for new beginnings. It invites fresh connections, unexplored opportunities, and deeper self-discovery. It allows you to shed the weight of what no longer fits, making room for what truly resonates with who you are becoming. Growth is about embracing the unknown, trusting that what's meant for you will find its way, and having faith that letting go isn't an ending, it's a powerful step toward a fuller, more authentic life. You owe no one an explanation for choosing yourself. In a world that often prioritizes pleasing others over honoring oneself, this truth can feel revolutionary. From a young age, many of us are taught to seek external validation, to meet expectations, and to prioritize the needs of others, even at the expense of our own well-being. But there comes a time when you must step back and realize that protecting your peace, energy, and mental health is not just a right, it's a necessity. Choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish, it makes you self-aware. It's about recognizing that you cannot pour from an empty cup. When you consistently neglect your own needs to accommodate others, you risk burnout, resentment, and a loss of connection to your authentic self. Protecting yourself isn't about rejecting those around you. It's about creating the space to show up fully for yourself first, so you can offer the best of you to the world. Often, the hardest part of protecting yourself is the guilt that comes with it. Society glorifies sacrifice and selflessness, making it feel almost wrong to prioritize your needs. But the truth is, no one else can protect your energy like you can. People will take what you give, often unintentionally, without understanding the toll it takes. It's not their responsibility to draw your boundaries, it's yours. And when you establish those boundaries, you owe no one an explanation. Your decision to step back, say no, or take time for yourself is valid simply because it matters to you. Protecting yourself also requires resilience in the face of pushback. Some may not understand your choices. They might question, criticize, or even attempt to guilt you into returning to old patterns. But their reaction is not your responsibility. Your job is to honor what feels right for you, trusting that those who truly respect and care for you will understand in time, or at the very least, respect your decision. Choosing yourself is an act of courage. It means acknowledging that your well-being is worth prioritizing, even if it means disappointing others. It's about trusting your instincts and valuing your peace over the fear of judgment. When you protect yourself, you set a powerful example for others. You show them what it looks like to honor your worth, to listen to your needs, and to live authentically. Ultimately, you don't need permission to choose yourself. Your peace, your energy, and your happiness are reason enough. In protecting yourself, you're not just choosing survival, you're choosing to thrive, to live a life that feels true to who you are, unapologetically. Being alone isn't lonely, it's a step toward discovering who you are. In a society that often equates constant connection with happiness and success, the idea of solitude can feel intimidating. We fear the silence, the stillness, and the absence of others because we've been conditioned to seek external validation and comfort. But solitude isn't something to dread. It's a sacred space where you can connect with the most important person in your life, yourself. The fear of solitude often stems from misunderstanding its purpose. Being alone doesn't mean being isolated or unloved. It means creating a boundary between yourself and the noise of the world to nurture your inner life. In solitude, you're not avoiding others, you're embracing the opportunity to explore your thoughts, emotions, and desires without outside influence. It's in these moments that you can strip away the expectations of others and get to the heart of what truly matters to you. Solitude allows for reflection and clarity. When surrounded by constant interaction, it's easy to lose sight of your own voice. You might find yourself agreeing to things that don't align with your values or pursuing goals that aren't truly yours. But in the quiet of solitude, you can begin to hear your own thoughts and uncover your authentic self. This process might be uncomfortable at first. Facing yourself without distractions can bring up unresolved feelings or fears. But it's through this discomfort that growth occurs. Choosing solitude is an act of self-care. It's about creating space to rest, recharge, and refocus. When you spend time alone, you give yourself the freedom to dream, plan, and rediscover the things that bring you joy. You learn to be your own source of strength and happiness, rather than relying on others to fill that role. This independence is empowering. It builds resilience and self-confidence that carry into every area of your life. Being alone doesn't mean you'll never feel lonely. Loneliness is a natural emotion, one that can arise even in a room full of people. But solitude teaches you that loneliness is not a void to be feared, but a signal to reconnect with yourself. It's a reminder that your worth isn't determined by your relationships or social status, but by the love and respect you show yourself. When you embrace solitude, you transform it from something to fear into a powerful tool for self-discovery. You realize that being alone is not about the absence of others, but the presence of yourself. In that presence, you find peace, purpose, and a deeper understanding of who you are and who you're becoming. Fewer authentic relationships are more valuable than 100 superficial ones. In a world that celebrates followers, likes, and connections as measures of success, it's easy to fall into the trap of equating quantity with quality. We're constantly encouraged to expand our networks, grow our social circles, and maintain countless acquaintances. Yet, the truth is that the depth of a relationship far outweighs its breadth. Real connection isn't found in numbers. It's found in authenticity, trust, and mutual understanding. Superficial relationships often revolve around convenience or appearances. They might provide temporary entertainment or validation, but they rarely offer the support or substance needed for genuine connection. These relationships can feel transactional, leaving you emotionally drained without ever addressing your deeper needs. In contrast, authentic relationships are built on shared values, open communication, and a willingness to show up as your true self. They're the ones where you feel seen, heard, and valued not for what you can offer, but for who you are. Authentic connections require vulnerability. They demand that you let go of the masks you wear for the world and allow someone to see the real you. This process can be intimidating, especially in a culture that often rewards perfection over honesty. But vulnerability is the foundation of trust, and trust is what transforms a casual acquaintance into a meaningful relationship. When you invest in fewer, deeper connections, you create a space where you can be yourself without fear of judgment. Quality over quantity also means prioritizing energy. Maintaining a large number of superficial relationships can be exhausting, leaving little time or emotional capacity for the relationships that truly matter. By focusing on a select few, you can pour more energy, care, and attention into these connections, nurturing them in ways that bring lasting fulfillment. These relationships become a source of strength and stability, grounding you in times of challenge and celebrating with you in moments of joy. Choosing quality doesn't mean isolating yourself or rejecting new connections. It means being intentional about the relationships you cultivate. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are finite and choosing to spend them where they create the most meaning. It's understanding that a single, genuine conversation can be more impactful than 100 surface-level interactions. Ultimately, fewer authentic relationships allow you to build a life rich in connection and support. They remind you that it's not about how many people you know, but about how deeply you connect with the ones who truly matter. These relationships are the anchors that keep you grounded, the mirrors that reflect your true self, and the spaces where you find both comfort and growth. Letting go of relationships that demand your constant proving frees you to be yourself. In a world where validation is often mistaken for love, it's easy to fall into the trap of relationships that make you feel like you must constantly earn your place. These dynamics can be subtle, cloaked in expectations, obligations, or an unspoken need to prove your worth. Over time, they erode your sense of self, making you feel like you're only as good as what you offer, achieve, or perform. Breaking free from this cycle is not just liberating, it's transformative. Relationships that hinge on validation create a cycle of dependency. You find yourself striving to meet expectations, fearing rejection if you fall short. This constant proving becomes exhausting, as you're never quite sure if you're enough. It's a dynamic that prioritizes what you do over who you are, leaving little room for authenticity. In these relationships, you may feel like you're walking on eggshells, carefully curating your words and actions to maintain approval. But living this way disconnects you from your true self. Letting go of these relationships is an act of reclaiming your power. It requires acknowledging that your worth isn't tied to anyone else's perception of you. You don't have to prove your value through deeds or meet endless expectations to deserve love and respect. True, healthy relationships celebrate you as you are, not as you're expected to be. When you release the need to prove yourself, you create space for connections that are rooted in acceptance and mutual appreciation. The decision to step away from validation-driven relationships isn't easy. It can bring up fears of loneliness or doubts about whether you're doing the right thing, but the discomfort of letting go is temporary, while the freedom it brings is lasting. It's an opportunity to rebuild your sense of self-worth, no longer reliant on external approval, but grounded in your own inner confidence. In breaking the cycle of validation, you also open the door to self-discovery. Without the weight of constantly proving yourself, you can explore who you are at your core, your passions, values, and unique qualities. This self-awareness allows you to form relationships that align with your true self, relationships where you feel supported, valued, and free to grow. Ultimately, letting go of relationships that demand proving isn't about rejection, it's about honoring yourself. It's about choosing to live authentically, unapologetically, and free from the pressure to be anything other than who you truly are. In doing so, you reclaim your right to exist as you are, deserving of love and belonging without conditions. Ghosting isn't permanent, it's a reset. Return when you're ready or not at all. In a world where we are expected to be constantly available, responsive, and engaged, taking a step back, whether from a relationship, a job, or a social circle, can seem like a drastic, even harsh decision. But sometimes stepping away is the most powerful choice you can make. It's not an end, but a necessary pause, a chance to recalibrate, reconnect with your inner self, and assess where you want to go next. Ghosting, when understood as a reset rather than abandonment, becomes a tool for clarity and renewal. When you ghost, you create space. This space isn't about avoiding the difficult conversations or pretending like nothing matters. It's about giving yourself room to breathe. In the hustle of life, we often forget to check in with ourselves. We become so wrapped up in the expectations and demands of others that we lose sight of our own needs and desires. Ghosting allows you to step back, free from external pressure, to listen to your heart, clarify your intentions, and decide what truly matters. This period of absence is a reset. It's an opportunity to rediscover what it feels like to act in alignment with your purpose, rather than in response to external demands. When you return, whether that's after days, weeks, or months, you return with a deeper sense of clarity, having reflected on what you need from your relationships and how you want to show up in the world. The space you took isn't about running away, it's about coming back to yourself so you can come back stronger. Not every relationship, situation, or connection is meant to be revisited after this reset. Some people or dynamics may no longer align with your purpose or the person you are becoming. And that's okay. The beauty of a reset is that it gives you the freedom to make this decision. Returning or not returning is a choice that should be made with purpose, not obligation. You don't owe anyone an explanation for taking the time you need to evolve, to heal, or to reassess what's important. But for those relationships that are meant to endure, returning with purpose means showing up with authenticity. It's about being clear on what you need, setting boundaries, and expressing your intentions without fear of judgment. Your time away has given you the clarity to understand what you truly want. And when you return, you do so with the knowledge of your worth and the strength of your convictions. Ghosting isn't about disappearing into oblivion, it's about creating space for transformation. And when you return, whether to the same relationships or new opportunities, you return with a renewed sense of self, a clearer vision, and the freedom to move forward on your terms. In conclusion, embracing the power of stepping back, whether through ghosting or detachment, is not about avoiding responsibility or cutting ties recklessly. It is about reclaiming your peace, recalibrating your energy, and choosing to honor your true self. In a world that constantly pulls us in multiple directions, the courage to step away, to let go, and to prioritize your well-being is an act of strength and self-love. Whether it's creating space for growth, seeking authentic connections, or letting go of relationships that no longer serve you, the choices you make to protect and realign yourself are vital. Remember, your journey is yours to navigate, and sometimes stepping back is exactly what you need to move forward with purpose, clarity, and the freedom to be who you are meant to be. So tonight, I challenge you: who or what is draining your energy? Where can you say no without apology? What would happen if you allowed yourself to ghost everyone, even for just a little while? Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is disappear, only to reemerge stronger than ever. Thank you.